Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this is not the circus, but this may be the most interesting show on earth. I want to thank you for watching the This is Howley Do It podcast. I am your host, James Howley, along with my guest, Mr. Alan Piket.
I didn't know it was called This is Howley Do It. You told me the title. I thought you just were saying This is how we do it. We're off to a good start.
Yeah, off to a good start. Yeah.
All right.
I didn't
Welcome
know what
to
to
This
say to
is
that.
Howley Do It. I get it now.
Puns.
When you told me about it, I was like, what's the significance of that? But now it all makes sense.
You're my first guest for the first episode, number 1. Thank you for being my first guest.
It's an honor. It really is.
Great. So, like, we go back for a really long time. We've been friends for 8 years now. I feel old.
Yeah, probably about that. Yeah, probably about
2011,
8
I think it
years,
was.
7. Yeah.
And even though we don't really need an icebreaker question, this is going to be 2 opening questions for all my guests.
Okay.
First, other than me, or before being friends with me, have you ever been friends with or had any significant interactions with somebody who is physically disabled?
I mean, when I was in summer camp, there were some retarded kids, but not really.
Did we go to the same camp?
Did we go to the
Did
same?
we go to the same
Yeah, I think you were one of them, actually, now that I think of it. No, I never really had any, like, disabled friends before you. No, you're the anomaly there,
Okay.
as far as I'm concerned.
I feel like that might be a theme in this podcast, but you never know.
Yeah.
Second question, icebreaker question, is there's a lot of different groups of society. There's LGBT, there's...
Q.
There,
At the end. There's,
the Q, I don't know what
They
the
get
Q
mad
stands
if you don't have the
for.
Q.
I don't know what it stands for.
That may be a controversial thing to say, they get mad
Okay.
about it, but I think they do. I think it's true, actually.
Well, that's one type of group. There's like flat earthers, and obviously there's different.
Are you comparing them to the
No,
LGBTQ?
I'm not. No, there's a question at the end of this.
Wow, it's your first episode. How dare you?
There's a question at the end of this that we're trying to get to.
All right.
LGBT, let's say flat earthers. There's obviously different racial groups. There's black people, Asians, Indians.
Jews.
He mentioned his own. Even though
Yeah, I can say that because
Yeah, even though it's not an
those
ethnicity
people.
or race, but
It's a thing.
it's a thing. So what I'm leading to is, do you feel like disabled people as a group should also be considered a minority group?
I mean, they are because there's less of them.
Okay.
That's the definition of minority, isn't
Right.
it?
That's true.
It really is. I mean, so yes.
But
by
you know that's
definition.
not the only thing.
I mean, what
people
to
consider
you
minority
defines a minority group?
In the exact definition, like you said, I do agree that there's less of them, yes. But I feel like a lot of people...
Like you're at a disadvantage, or what?
I feel like a lot of people feel that way, yes, exactly. That they're at a disadvantage in life.
And not just like your handicap itself, but how you're treated, I guess,
Exactly.
or looked at.
Correct. That's what I was getting to.
Yeah, I would say there's some validity to that. There's definitely, probably I would say some bias, some hurdles to overcome, literally and figuratively, and you're never going to get over the literal ones. So.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, me personally, but other disabilities. Anyway, so let's not stay on that. I don't want to compare disabilities.
Let's not be like that. Let's not be those guys.
Not now.
Let's take the high road for now.
For now, yeah.
It's gonna get worse.
Off camera, we'll be ourselves.
Yeah.
So as I was mentioning, we go back a really long time. You helped me get into comedy.
Yeah.
So I've only been doing it for 5 years. How long? Tell the people. How long have you been doing comedy?
Longer
for?
than I care to admit. No, I started doing it when I was like 18, so like 2007, and a lot of it was very on and off. I really I think what I have to show for all the comedy I've done after all this time is experience, the network I have, and skill.
What made you want to get into comedy?
I watched a lot of it as a kid, like even from a very, very young age, and
Me too.
I'd see it on TV, and I really enjoyed it so much just watching it, and it always looked like a really fun thing to do, but when I was a kid, there was always that, well, I I wouldn't be able to do that. It looks really fun, but I couldn't do it. But then again, I honestly didn't find out till a more advanced age than I care to admit that comedians plan what they're going to say ahead of time. I think I might have been like maybe even like, I don't know, like 10 or something, or
Right.
11 maybe, when I realized this. One night I said to my mom, I was at home, and I was like, Mom, I want to do a comedy thing for you. And she sat down, and I started saying some bullshit. And then I was like, oh, I can't think of anything else. And she's like, well, you do know comedians, they write their stuff ahead of time, and then they go up and do it. I'm like, oh, that makes more sense. Okay. So, and then from there, I was like, okay, maybe I could do that. You know.
When you started doing comedy, because I realized it once I started doing it more regularly. Did you realize how much more work it is to actually?
Oh yeah. I actually kind of like fell into it in the sense that like when I was 16, I was writing bits without realizing I was writing bits. I just had all these ideas, these things I would say, these concepts I would come up with, and I'd talk about them to people casually, and I realized I was like, some of this could be comedy. It wasn't good. It was stupid 16-year-old bullshit, but it was. But I realized there was something there, you know, and
I feel like being
16-year-olds are not funny, you know. That like having been one.
I feel like being a comedian is just an excuse to be an asshole in public, like a designated time.
You need an excuse for that.
Yeah, I mean,
Have you seen people?
That's true. That's true. But like at least in comedy, you know, you get people looking at you and laughing, and it doesn't make it seem like you're just a horrible person in society, even though we are in society. But I don't know. People say that it's cheaper than therapy.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, I get therapy too. And
I feel like a lot of people probably.
yeah, it doesn't really. I mean, it's not a substitute.
Not a substitute, just an addition.
If you're a comedian and you're using comedy instead of seeing a therapist, don't do that. Take care of yourself. Really, this is from the heart. I mean this.
Yes.
Get an HSA from your job if you have a job that you know is legit like that. And if not, you know, save your money. Just see someone, get help, because if you're a comedian in the first place, you probably should be seeing a therapist.
Health is very important.
Mental health is important.
You were mentioning how your parents are very supportive of you doing comedy.
Yeah.
And
it's weird.
Your mom specifically, because my mom doesn't get it. Like,
what the hell wrong with you?
Yeah, exactly. I do it better because I'm actually Asian.
I know,
but,
of course.
Yeah, she came to see me do comedy once with her then boyfriend, now husband, and they heckled me.
Oh yeah, right. That fucking asshole.
Yeah, you were there.
Can I say his name?
No, I won't say
his name.
They like they said, they don't support me, so they will never see this. But still,
I won't say your mom's name either because I don't know your mom's name. That's another reason.
That's bad. That's bad. We've been
I don't know your mom's name. I legit don't know your mom's name.
You've met her many times.
That's nuts.
She knows your name, but
Miss Howley? No, that's not even right.
Not even her.
They're divorced.
Not even her name anymore. Anyway, we'll just keep it at that. I'm not going to say.
I just know her as your mom.
You won't.
I barely remember what she looks like. In fact, I don't
good.
remember at all.
That's good.
I've met her, right?
Yes. Yes. She remembers you. But I guess my question was going to be, since I don't have support from my mother in comedy, my father supports me with it. But when you started doing comedy, did you have any like friends or family that was like, "What are you doing?"
Anyone who was against it? No. I think that's like a comedy staple, but it's more like just it's kind of a cliche in a way. But I don't think it's maybe I think if anyone it would be parents. Like in reality, like parents when they see like I just don't think it's that real, to be honest. I think for the most part, if you want to do comedy, I feel like any given person, like their parents would be like, oh, that's cool. Now, if you're like just going for it and like you're like, oh, I don't need a job, I have comedy, your parents will be like, well, that's a little,
right.
I don't think that's a good idea, and rightfully so. But I never did that. I worked. I did what I had to do, but I also wanted to do comedy, and my parents were happy for me.
So what you're saying is it's only Asians that don't support their kids in their dreams.
So let me ask you, because your mom really didn't want you to do comedy?
It's not that she didn't want me to do it, just she never told me to stop doing it. It's
right,
just
but she wasn't supportive.
She doesn't get it.
She doesn't get it.
Yeah, she doesn't get, because she doesn't think that I'm funny. Okay. So she'll hear my jokes, and she'll You know, she'll be like, tell me a joke. I'll be like, no, because you don't think that I'm funny. So I'm just going to tell my joke. You're not going to get it, and then it's going to be embarrassing for me. So why would I waste my time? And the only time that they like think that I'm funny is if I play them something and other people are laughing. But if I say
that makes sense. Yeah.
But if I say the joke, very much when we go, talk about bits, like usually when comedians are telling other comedians jokes, they don't laugh purposely.
Right, that's true.
Yeah.
Pulling back the curtain a bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Because we're horrible people.
I pitch jokes to my mom, but she likes them. My mom thinks I'm so funny.
Yeah, well, that's I think.
But
the white part. Because my dad's white, and my dad loves my jokes. He laughs at me.
It's
all
white
the time.
people.
Yeah,
So Asian parents. Wait a minute. You're saying Asian parents can be like judgmental and difficult?
Wow.
I've never heard that. That's a new one to me. I've never heard that said by anyone.
For those of you who aren't picking up on the sarcasm, Google tiger moms. Tiger parents, in Asian culture, it's for real. Like, that's a thing. But
and I had to get my evil laugh in there. That was my evil laugh. That's not just my laugh. That's my evil laugh.
I remember I told you did that too well, and then you posted a Facebook status.
Oh, I was so proud of that. Yeah. I was like, oh my God, James said that I evil laughed too well, and it's the best compliment I've ever got.
Right, I remember. Yeah, that's exactly what he posted.
It was something like that.
I was just like, that's a shame that that's the best compliment you've ever gotten.
I mean,
I can't think of.
I'm not good at a lot of things. And I'm that's fair enough. I'm just not. Sorry.
I'm trying to think at the time what was the best compliment that I've ever.
I think I'm good at comedy, but like
Don't take compliments about it.
No, I do. I mean, I'm very funny. A lot of people, I mean, that's. But you got to stay humble, Even though I'm hilarious, I can't go be all up in your face about it all the time.
Right. Yeah, that's called cockiness and arrogance.
Yeah, arrogance, right?
Yeah, humble. Yeah, those people suck. But
I'm not that funny.
So,
here's the thing about that though. I do actually think I'm funny, but like, I'm really not like a dick about it. I'm not arrogant. I don't think I'm like anything. I don't think I'm so amazing. But like, I feel like you should either. I think if you're a comedian and you're doing it regularly and you're really into it, I think you should think you're funny. There are all these people who do comedy who I see and they're like, oh yeah, I'm not funny. And it's like, well, then why the fuck are you doing it?
Right. I think there should be a balance. That I think you should think that you're funny.
You should have some humility.
Yeah,
you shouldn't think you're like
the best.
Yeah. Right.
And
I don't.
Even if you are the best, like I think that's
which I'm not.
Yeah. I mean, if you're watching this podcast, we're not. But yeah, I mean, like in general, I think anybody should have a little, have a lot of confidence, but also a lot of humility at the same time.
Right.
That way, that they actually do what they want to do. Just without confidence.
To me, it's not just a matter of you should be confident. I think it's also, if you don't think you're funny, then what are you doing? Like, why would you just do comedy and accept? Oh, I'm not funny, but I'm doing it. You're wasting everybody's time.
Yeah, and then
But I see that. You know what I mean, right? You see people. And they just keep doing it, and they're not funny. They're right, they're right. They're not funny, but it's like, why don't you maybe, I don't know, work on your craft?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and that's what the humility part does. Like, if you're humble, then you'll want to get better. Like if you think you're the best, and then there's no goal.
Yeah, I think it's important to recognize that you should always want to get better, but you should also want to get better enough that you get to a point where you can say, I'm at least. I'm passable.
Right.
You should strive for at least being passable to the point where when you're doing it, you're passable.
Right.
Like it's not just awkward when you do it and then you get off stage and you go on Facebook. You're like, oh yeah, I'm doing this show, and don't worry, there are funny people there too. Like I hate that. Why do people do that?
So that brings me to something that I was just thinking of now, in mid sentence.
Yeah.
Before I started doing comedy, I realized, I didn't realize that there was like a middle, like a minor leads or like a middle ground. Like I thought there was like theater and like stage, and I didn't realize like to start off you have to do like coffee shops and bars and bowling alleys and what are other places that we've done shows and like stuff like
Oh,
that.
where haven't we done shows?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, good places that are like prestigious.
And, yeah, and then there's like and then like a step up from that would be like a charity event. Like I did one charity event. It was at a VFW. And
great to be here at the Brewster's Bar, Grill, and Coliseum, everyone. Yeah.
Well, that's yeah. Well, what I was never mind. So there's that, and then there's like comedy club, which is a step up from that, and then so like you should be a club comedian and still not be known.
Right. No, you're right. You could be. There are varying levels of success and prestige, and I mean,
you have to put as much work and grow and try to make it like as like an athlete. That's
I mean, I guess to an extent you get what you put in, and different people are looking for different things in it. My attitude was always, I just want to go wherever it can take me, but I never really said, oh, I have to, get to a certain point, I just doing what I can. And honestly, there have been a lot of obstacles along the way, just life, I mean, it's hard because, I mean, if you want to be a professional comedian, that's great, but it takes time to really get to that point where you can make that kind of steady money off it. And in the meantime, you need a job. But when you have a job, it's hard to have as much time to put work into comedy. And that's the conundrum.
Yeah, work, life,
where
comedy
do you put
balance.
your priorities? And
yeah,
that's why
that's why people take breaks. Like
I've taken breaks myself.
Yeah, everybody. I feel because like at first when I started doing it, I didn't want to, or I felt guilty when I did it.
Right.
And then I realized everybody does it. Like people disappear for months or weeks, and then they come back, and I feel like the passion or the love for it never goes away. Just the time and the commitment may change throughout your time. But that's another thing that you were mentioning. We've been working. So you helped me get my first job before I even knew you. Right. A mutual friend of ours.
I'm a very good person like that,
yeah. You were nice to me before you even knew who I was, and then I returned the favor because I helped.
Well.
And indirectly helped you. Okay.
You inspired me.
I inspired you.
Inspired.
That's even better than helping you because I gave you inspiration in my eyes.
Oh.
They hate the disdain.
No, I mean, let's. Okay. So what happened? So a mutual friend told me that you needed a job, and we talked on the phone for a minute, and I told you a little about my job that you were thinking of applying to. We did before we met, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then I met you when you were there applying.
Right.
But I told you a little about the job, and but I mean, you're the one who applied. I mean, I think I put in like a word for you, but even though I didn't know who the fuck you were, but I didn't tell them that.
I remember I had to take a test, and it was one of those
to see if you could read, right?
Well, yeah, but I remember one of the tests were one of these like idiot tests where it had like so it was an idiot test because I was an idiot, so I failed the test. Where there was like 30 questions, there was like 30 steps, and it was like step 1 is like don't do anything until you read all the steps. And I'm reading all the steps, and I didn't get to like 10 steps in. Like step 1 was like write your name in all caps, first name in all caps. Step number 2, put your age in the top right-hand corner. And I'm just reading all these steps, like, how am I going to get through all these steps? These are a lot of steps. And then I'm going through, like, half of them, halfway into it, and I'm just like, shit, at the end it's going to say, just, like, fold your paper or something. And I looked at all the other ones, and the very last step, like, the second to last step was ignore all of the other steps. And then the last one was, like, put your name, and I was like, fuck, I just didn't get this job, so I thought I messed up the whole entire thing.
Wait, at maximum? That was...
Yeah, at maximum research.
That was I didn't get that test. I think they just, I think they were discriminating, actually. I think they saw your wheelchair and were like, we need a little extra assurance here.
Well, Angel, the girl who hired me,
I just had to read some shit. That's
weird. I had to do that too, but that was the part. So she gave me all this stuff, and then she walked out the room. And then when she came back, I was freaking out, so I thought I wasn't getting the job, and I was like, I'm an idiot, so I did this last thing wrong. And she was like, oh, don't worry about it. It didn't count anyway. I was like,
yeah, they just do it to mess with you.
They did, just to fuck
with
you.
Well, keep in mind, I applied there, I had my interview in 2005. So, that was a long time before, so I'm sure things were a bit... Yeah, things were different at that point.
Yeah, things are a lot different now, too.
Oh, they are, I think.
Aren't we glad we're not there anymore?
Oh.
But I mean, I liked it while I was there.
Yeah, no, it served a purpose, I mean,
experience.
a lot of people will just talk about that place and be like, oh yeah, that place sucked. But
yeah,
while it did, there was a purpose to it. I feel I did gain a lot from it. Personally, where are we? Have we said, or are we gonna say where we work? Are we gonna say?
Well, we work for a bank.
We work for a bank.
Keep it at
that. I'm very glad I work there now, at the bank, and it's a good place to work. And sometimes, I would think, because they start hiring at like 18 years old, and I started there when I was 26, and I thought, for a moment at one point I was like, this is a really great place to work, and I'm supporting myself, and I was thinking, if only I had started here when I was, like 18, but then I realized if I had started here when I was 18, I would not work here right now, because I was not ready for a big boy job when I was 18. Some people are, and more power to those amazing, wonderful, talented people, but not me. I couldn't, I wouldn't be able to do it. I needed a place like, I said the name of it, maybe you'll cut that out. But,
do you want me to cut
and
that
you can
out?
cut out me saying that.
Yeah.
So, you'll figure it out. But, I mean, you don't have to cut it out.
I'll keep it in.
Alright, keep it all in.
Keep all this
whatever.
in, so.
But we won't say what the bank is.
Yeah,
but
definitely
we'll
don't say
the
what
other
the bank
place
is.
I alluded, okay.
Yeah,
But,
we could get fired.
Whatever. Yeah, we can't get fired from a place we don't work, though, and fuck that place anyway.
Well, not that place, the place we work at now.
No, I know, that's what I'm saying, but by contrast,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
We're on the same page here.
Yeah.
So, but that place, I mean, I feel it gave me a chance to practice being an adult in the workplace.
Oh my God.
It was semi-professional, I would say.
If you did the things if you did the things now that you did then,
right?
Like just walk
We're
out.
in agreement.
Yeah.
We're in agreement. Yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to
You
do
were
that.
G, like he.
I was a fucking G.
He just
I
walked
was a
out
god
because he didn't want
that
to. He
place.
didn't want to work because he didn't like the work. So he's like, I'm leaving.
And that's the thing, like,
and he had a job the next day.
I had a job.
I can't walk out of work in general, but like even if I rolled out, like
it's a wonder that I quit that place and I was never fired. I quit.
Yeah.
After I worked there a total of what, like 5 years in total, I think.
I was there for.
Oh no! Like a total, because I worked there 2 years left, and then I was there another like 5 years.
Why'd you leave the first time?
So it was a total of 7. The first time I got in an argument with one of the supervisors, and technically I was fired, but like when I came back like 3 years later, cause it was mutual, because I was like, fuck this, I don't care.
Yeah.
But when I came back 3 years later, the manager saw me when I came in to apply, and it was almost like they'd been waiting for me to come back, because no, seriously, I went in. There was this receptionist there. She didn't know me. I didn't know her. I just asked for an application. I filled it out. And here's the other strange thing. She said, all right, well, it was almost as if she, like she recognized my name or so. I don't think that's what happened. Maybe I'm just not sure what happened there. But she actually took the application, went to the manager's office.
Right.
And because she was like, all right, hold on a second. And she came back. And then the manager, she came out and was like, wicked Alan Piket.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God. So then, and she was like, oh yeah, like, when you left the first time, like, I thought we were gonna hear back from you, and you were gonna, ask for your job back, but we never heard from you. I'm like, yeah, I just needed to sort some things out in life. And when really it was just like, well, I didn't want to fucking work here at the time. But then I realized like other places sucked even worse. So. Yeah, because I was still when I came back I was 21, but still not ready for a big boy job at 21. Not ready.
What's odd is all those jobs that I've had, I've only had 3 jobs, and you've been affiliated in one way or another with all those companies, because we worked together at Matt's, my first job. The second one that I worked for was a collections agency that you used to work for.
I used to work there,
as well, and I only knew about it because you told me that you worked there, and I was like, oh, what else did I do that I might be qualified for? And now we work for the bank together.
Yeah.
In different.
Yeah,
different
and
roles.
yeah, I mean, yeah, sure. I've gone a little farther than you have in less time, but
Yeah.
you can cut that out. That was a dick thing to say.
No, keep it in. Keep it in.
All right, yeah, everybody can know what an
this
asshole
should not
I am.
be called. Yeah, this should be the what are we keeping in podcast instead of
But what are
this is how we do it. But
it probably should because that's kind of a dumb name.
I don't care what you think.
All right, good.
You know, one of the shared interests that we have is wrestling.
Oh yeah.
That's
How old were you when you started watching wrestling? Oh, I'm sorry, you were
7.
supposed to ask the question.
I mean, I don't.
But,
I'm
okay,
not,
I'm glad.
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not territorial about my podcast.
I appreciate that.
I did
some
watch-
podcast hosts are like,
Right.
whoa. Have you ever been on Stone Cold's podcast? Oh my God,
He's the worst.
Yeah, he's the worst.
Yeah.
No, but anyway,
Chair shots to the head.
So
I was probably
7, you said?
yeah, probably 7.
I was 10.
Okay.
I was the type of like when I was in school.
I just realized whenever I think I'm really young, I always think that I'm 7. I could have been older, younger. So
You could have been 22.
I did.
Who
2
knows?
years ago. I do a joke where I'm just like, oh, this happened when I was really young.
Yeah.
I was 7 when I almost got kidnapped, but I could have been like.
It could have been yesterday.
Yeah, it could have been yesterday. It could have been like I was 5.
Could have been.
I don't know. But anyway, you were.
Oh,
10.
remember we were out just now and you almost got kidnapped? Like,
You mean when
remember
I
we
was
were at
7?
ShopRite,
Yeah.
somebody almost took you?
Right, yeah. Yeah, remember
No.
when I drove you over here when I was 7? Anyway.
Yeah. But, no, so I was always late on fads in school. Like, you know, wrestling was definitely a big fad when I got into it. Like, I was late with, but I always still got into them at some point. Like,
Right.
yo-yos, Tamagotchis, Gigapets, you know. I got this
That
Toy
is.
Story Gigapet.
I don't know what
That
it
was
is.
very unconventional at the time. Do you know what that...
No.
Alright, so, ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to explain something that you already know
Yeah.
to our host here. You'll probably know what it is when I tell you what it is.
I would Google it, but my phone's.
Yeah.
recording.
You know those, it's like a video game thing, a little digital thing, but you have a pet. It's like you're taking care of a pet.
Okay.
It's an electronic pet.
Okay.
You've never heard of this. I mean, I know I'm a little older than you, but Jesus, dude.
I mean, I know that there's electronic, like, stuffed animals and stuff. Is it like that?
It's where, like, if you don't take care of it properly, the video game pet dies.
Oh, okay.
Well, not all of them are programmed though. I had the Toy Story one. It was not that harsh. Like, you could get a mulligan if you needed it. But no, I think like the actual original Tamagotchis, like from Japan, because you know the fucking Japanese, they would die. Like, you fuck with you fuck around, you don't feed it enough. Right. That shit, nope, it's done. You can never use it again. You gotta buy a new one. So were these, just like with real pets.
Were these things a way to like teach children how to take care of pets?
No, it was just to make money.
Oh, okay.
Like everything.
But I thought the purpose was like buy these for your.
Oh, you mean why people buy them?
Right.
No, people are just dumb.
Yeah, they're just dumb.
People just buy stupid bullshit.
If you're buying things and like,
there's no reason to buy that.
Teaching children that you get a mulligan if you kill your pet, then that's not a good lesson to learn.
Yeah, but also if you're teaching children that you should spend actual time taking care of
a fake pet.
Wow, video games are just meaningless. Like, why do we play video games?
Entertainment, obviously.
None of it's real, dude.
Yeah, but
none of it's real.
But it's simulation, fantasy.
Yeah, why don't we just live?
Why
don't we live our lives?
Well, some people can live their lives to the fullest extent.
Well, I get someone like you playing a video game.
Right.
You know, look at me, I'm walking.
Yeah. Every single video game, there's never a character in a wheelchair. It's very inconsiderate and
rude. Is there not? I don't know.
Wasn't
there a Family Guy video game?
I don't watch Family Guy.
I'm pretty sure Joe would have been in that game. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That's my case.
I
heard it was a bad game, though, to be fair. It wasn't a good game. I never played it. But.
So, wrestling. How do we get on that anyway, about wrestling?
Are there any wrestlers in wheelchairs? There was Zach Gowen, but he was in a wheelchair. He was just missing a leg. But at least the one he had worked, you know, so there was that.
Yeah.
He do moonsaults. Like,
I don't know any one-legged guys.
but he never won.
You know, I know, like,
You know?
I've met more than one-legged person in my life. Two. I know two. Anyway,
2 legs between them.
Yeah.
Between them,
Two
they're a
people,
regular
2
person.
legs. 2 people, 2 legs.
With 2 heads and the rest of their.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
Anyway, so the original question was going to be, who's your favorite wrestler of all time?
Kristen. You know that.
Yeah.
You know that.
Of course.
I love Kristen.
Because my interests, as you know, are wrestling, sports, music, movies, normal people things, even though I'm in a wheelchair. So that was
Who's your favorite of all time?
Of all time, probably Shawn Michaels.
So let's talk about why. So, see, Christian, some of it is kind of an intangible, really, because, you know, I mean, I understand why, if you hear me say Christian is my favorite wrestler of all time, you might say, like, well, what about him? What stands out about him?
Not much.
Well, but here's the thing. It wasn't just a matter of the moves he did or his persona or whatever, but I always found that, first of all, I read wrestling news and you know, I don't consider myself an insider, you know, I'm not, but you know, I know enough about what goes on that from what I could always tell and what you would see on TV too, like, first of all, he's a person who he was always very passionate about what he did, and I could tell he put all of himself into it, and he was like the type where he wasn't like a diva about it. Again, this is from both watching it and reading about, you know, the behind the scenes and everything. And he was always he was a good sport, but ultimately he still got to a point where he gained some real prominence, but he didn't do it through being a complainer or a whiner, you know.
I think you just liked him as a person.
But I also really enjoyed his wrestling. But the thing is, like, you might say, oh, well, yeah, like, I think a lot of people would agree he was a very good wrestler, and even that he did have good mic skills and a good persona, but it just might be a matter of what really made him stand out. I guess as far as what really made him stand out is just, there was something about him that something I could connect with, you know, and I'm probably not the only one, I mean, you know, but, like, I feel like, you know, it's easy to go for, like, let's say an Edge, you know, who really went, you know, beyond all possible expectations you could ever have, and transcended, you know, to the status of being an icon like he did, you know.
And he fucked Lita and Beth Phoenix.
Lita and Beth Phoenix, yes.
That's the icon status as well.
Yeah, that's pretty dope. That's pretty dope. But I feel like for me, I mean, for example, you're a Daniel Bryan fan, and I feel like there is something about the underdogs sometimes that kind of makes you kind of, you know, connect with them a little more, depending, I mean, not everybody, but for me, you know, I mean, by the same token, I think also I would pick Christian because it's a less common answer you would hear. Like, another one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, who I could easily just throw out there, is The Rock. The Rock, and you'd hear that from a lot of people, you know. But that's the thing. Like, The Rock is an obvious choice. So I usually would say Christian partly because he's not like an obvious choice. Like it's easy to say, oh yeah, I like this person who everybody is a big fan of, you know. But but I feel like you learn more about what someone is into by hearing like who they like, who may not be as popular, you know. So and he really is. For whatever reason, I followed him. I mean, he was the reason I started watching TNA originally. And I think he did actually gain TNA a lot of viewers.
Back when they had viewers.
Yeah, rest in peace TNA, even though you still technically are alive.
Right.
But you know, but even The Rock, you know, I think one big reason I always was really a much bigger fan of The Rock than Stone Cold Steve Austin was because Stone Cold Steve Austin seemed to just always get his way.
Right.
And I didn't dig that. I didn't think that was as relatable.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of people related to Steve Austin because he was the guy who was, you know, fighting the machine, fighting the man, fighting his boss,
Right.
and everybody, you know, wanted to live vicariously through that. But to me, his character, I was a big fan of Stone Cold, but not as much as The Rock because I felt it just wasn't as relatable. The idea that I really felt like he got it over on everyone and like never faced any, at least relative to most other wrestlers, he never really faced any, you know, adversity.
Yeah.
Not the kind that most others would face.
Yeah, see, that's what I like about wrestlers like Daniel Bryan
Right.
and like Shawn Michaels. Like, I feel like Daniel Bryan, if he like stays around and has a lot of good matches now that he's just come back, he should be my favorite of all time because he's gone through a lot of adversity since
Right.
he started in the company. Shawn Michaels is my favorite because he had the great matches before he had the first, before he had his back surgery, before he was gone for a few years. He came back, he was a born-again Christian, found Jesus, apparently, and, I mean, he's had one of the best careers, and he's one of the best workers of all time. But yeah, I mean, I was really happy when I found out that that you were a wrestling fan when we first became friends. At the time, I don't think I was really friends with anybody else who was also a wrestling fan.
Yeah, it's hard to find sometimes. You know?
Yeah, it's crazy.
People who will admit it. You know?
Exactly, yes, like Trump supporters. Who would ever want
Let's not compare ourselves to
it's
those.
to those people,
Those.
to those. But
Don't do that. Yes, I'm on record as saying, yeah, what? No. No.
I'm not trying to say that I'm a Trump
For the
supporter.
record.
I'm definitely not a Trump supporter.
Yes, let's make that clear. I
Yeah.
don't care. This is YouTube. People have different opinions, but my opinion, no. No.
So I don't know. You probably didn't notice this as when I picked you up earlier today, but because you were in the middle of a story, but we passed somebody that had a bumper sticker that said Benghazi is a lie. I don't get it, so I don't follow politics.
Oh, was that the one that had the swastika over on the other side too? Was that the...
But it had that. It had like a Wounded Warrior sticker. That was the only good thing about this person. And then at the bottom, it had a sticker that said, "I support the police and Trump." And like,
oh, why you gotta make the police look
Yeah.
shady like that? I mean, they kind of are sometimes.
they can be, but
They can be with the.
don't
with
compare
the
them to
bad things
Trump.
they do. No, but police aren't. See, the difference between the police and Trump is the police aren't all bad.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference. Trump is just garbage.
So we're not.
You can quote me on that.
I'm
You don't
not
have to keep that.
not disagreeing with
Okay.
anything that you said, but this is running a bit towards the end anyway, like our lives under his.
Wait,
anyway.
what? Oh!
I remember when he got elected. 'Cause
See what he did there.
I don't follow politics at all, but I remember when he was elected. The very next day, at work, you were saying how the world is coming to an end. We're all
Did
dying.
I say that?
You were like, really gloomy and like we're all gonna die, and I was just like, it's that bad.
What?
Yeah, it was pretty bad. You were pretty depressed about it, and I was just like, oh wow, I didn't really.
I mean, it was scary. I know I was upset about it, like a
Yeah.
lot of people should have been, and were, but I mean, to be fair, I mean, a lot of things are really bad right now because of him. It's just not everything is necessarily something that's so glaring in your immediate everyday life, I guess.
Right.
You know, but I mean, yeah, the world's still here, but you know,
Yeah, we're
we'll
still
see
here.
how long that lasts.
Yeah. And since the sun is going down and the lighting is changing on this podcast, and it kind of looks like we're in the dark right now, I think that's a sign that we should wrap up. So instead of wrapping on this very incredibly sad and depressing moment, let's end on a high note. It's not meant
No
to be.
gimmick infringement.
Yeah, please don't.
No trademark infringement intended.
No pun intended.
Not a pun, it's trademark infringement.
Yeah,
If anything.
sorry.
If anything,
I
it's
should
neither.
have just let it. I'll cut this out.
Cut a lot. Cut the whole thing. Let's
So,
just not even save this.
final question: if you can think back in life, what is your what's one of your most proudest achievements, or what is like a time or moment that you're most happy about?
Well, I would say last night, but only you would get that because you know the backstory. But
Brazilians.
Yeah, but cut that out.
Brazilians are nice people.
They are nice people. I don't know what I'm just. I would say honestly that my happiest times are probably just my more recent adult life, actually, because I feel like I get happier the older I get. And I know that's kind of like I don't know if that sounds normal because the cliche and the old tired kind of humor is just oh yeah, you get old and it sucks, but and maybe I guess it can be that way, but for me it's not a matter of getting old, but it's just the way my life has progressed. As it progresses, it gets better and better. And that doesn't happen for everyone, but that's how it is for me. And also, when I was young, my life was fucking balls, man. It was terrible. So, I did not enjoy being a kid or a teenager. So that's some real talk.
This is a PSA for any depressed kids that are watching this right now.
It can get better.
It gets better.
You can grow out of being a very lonely teenager, and you can get out of that and become a very lonely adult. But at least you have a job and you have money and you have your own place, and you can at least deal with it.
I just thought it was slightly more positive.
And you can legally drink.
Yeah.
When you're an adult.
Alcohol.
Yeah, it helps. It helps. Yeah. I don't drink that much, you know that.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, but it does help. Yeah.
It helps,
But don't drink, kids.
I like my life. Do you believe that?
You like
I like
your
my
life?
life. I really like my life. I don't seem like the type, but I do.
Yeah.
Little fun fact about me.
I've questioned it in the past. I believe it now.
I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you thought I was just faking, but no, no, you know me well enough.
Yeah.
I love my life.
Yeah, that's
and
good.
if you see my comedy, you probably won't believe that. But comedy is comedy.
Exactly.
And
that's why it's called an act.
It's an act. But people don't always realize that, though. You know, people think I'm just sad all the
Yeah.
But no,
He's not sad.
I love life. It's great.
My life is kind of No, but.
By the way, I've said this to you many times. For the record, I have so much respect for this guy. He is the master of playing the hand you're dealt and playing it well. This guy, no, I'm serious.
I thought you
this
were
guy
about to
has
say
done
master
so much
playing up my handicap.
with what he's been given. So fucking respect.
Thank you,
all
sir.
right?
I don't know any better way to end this podcast than that.
Ah, there you go. This guy, he's a G. Let me tell you.
Oh, thank you.
G.
I want to thank my guest Alan Piket for being on this podcast. I want to thank you guys all for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Keep following I'm Just James, and this is Howley Do It podcast. There will be more guests in the future, more videos on my channel in the future. Thanks for watching.